The thing is, I did not think wanting to be seen was a crime. Two mirrors, one hallway, one woman checking if she still looked like herself. I was a woman who knew how rooms worked before people entered them. That was my job, in a way. My name is Paloma Reyes. I was 34, and I worked as a senior brand communications manager for a luxury property developer. I wrote launch copy for apartments with no curtains yet. I made half-built places sound like futures. I knew where to put flowers in a room so nobody noticed the crack near the skirting board. Our new townhouse still smelled of lemon floor cleaner and wet paint. The hallway was only half done. A strip of painter's tape hung near the stairs, and a blue ceramic key bowl sat on the console table, empty except for one Allen key and a folded receipt from B&Q. My husband was upstairs fixing a loose stair rail. I heard the drill stop, then start again. He had been doing small jobs like that for weeks. Sockets, hinges, mortgage papers, things I was supposed to understand as love. Years before we were married, we used to walk through model homes every Friday after work. My husband always chose useful details. Soft closed drawers, better insulation, a wider utility cupboard. I chose light, tall windows, and tiles that looked expensive even when they were not. We would steal one idea for our future house and then eat chips in the car because we were saving money and pretending that made us noble. That memory should have warmed me. Instead, I stood in the hallway and checked my face in the black window. My husband came down with dust on his sleeve. He asked softly, what had changed between us? I told him nothing had changed. I said I was tired. I said the launch calendar had been heavy. The thing is, he asked like someone checking a boiler pressure, careful and practical, as if the right question at the right time could stop the leak. He nodded and said he had booked the electrician for Thursday. That was his answer to everything. Fix a thing. Pay a thing. Carry a thing upstairs. My phone buzzed on the console beside the blue bowl. A tagged photo from Luca Bellini appeared from the property launch the week before. In it, I was laughing near a marble counter under warm lights, my chin tilted up like someone had just chosen me from a crowd. 2 seconds. One screen. No crime. My husband saw the light on my phone, then looked away, and the hallway, which had smelled clean all evening, suddenly smelled like paint that would not dry. The launch party was at the showroom on Little Portland Street, where the developer had rented a room with glass walls and fake olive trees in brushed steel pots. The catering company had left tiny goat cheese tarts on slate trays, and Tamsin was eating one over a napkin while telling me my new haircut made me look expensive. The thing is, I needed to hear it. 2 mirrors in the office bathroom, 1 lipstick mark on my thumb, no crime. I was a woman who had spent that whole month standing beside architects, investors, and agents who spoke to my husband about structure and to me about cushions. At home, he was making the house safer, cleaner, more finished. At work, I was making empty rooms desirable. Between those two things, I had started to feel like a brochure. Luca was not the reason at first. That matters. Or I tell myself it matters. He was 29, an architectural photographer with dark hair, a loose linen jacket, and the easy way of standing that young men have when they have not yet had to pay for many serious mistakes. He was taking pictures of the showroom kitchen when I leaned over to move a bowl of lemons 3 centimeters to the left. He said the room looked better when I touched it. Then he said, I made empty rooms look like people already wanted them. My husband would never have said that. He would have said the lighting plan worked. He would have said the sightline from the entrance was good. He would have been right, of course, and that was part of the problem. Luca asked if I was coming to the coffee thing after the launch. It was not even a real invitation. 4 people were going to the kiosk around the corner because the wine was bad and the room was hot. Still, he looked at me first when he asked. I said yes before checking the time. That was the first real choice. Not the toast later, not the story online. That small yes, made inside a room that smelled of lilies and new carpet glue. My husband called at 8:42. I remember the exact time because the clock above the showroom reception desk was wrong by 6 minutes, and I had been complaining about it all evening. I do not remember what excuse I planned to give him. That part is gone. I let the phone ring. Then I turned it face down beside my paper coffee cup. At the kiosk, Luca asked about the townhouse. He said it must be strange to build a home with someone who had already lived so much life before me. He smiled when he said it, like he had handed me a joke and a compliment in the same cup. I said my husband was not ancient. Then I said he was older. Then I laughed. By the time I got home, the hallway light had been left on for me. My husband was sitting at the small folding table we still used because the dining table had not arrived. He had a mug of tea beside him and a stack of appliance manuals open like evidence, though it was not evidence then. He asked where I had been. I told him the launch ran late and the room had been loud. He said Nina had seen me at the coffee kiosk after I texted that I was on the way home. Specific. Calm. One named incident. One real question. I heard surveillance. That is not what he said, but it is what arrived in me. The thing is, my father used to ask my mother where she had been after he had already decided she was boring. He would check times and receipts, then leave anyway. I was 12, sitting on the stairs in purple socks, listening to my mother say that a wife becomes invisible before she is abandoned. She said it so often that it became furniture in my head. So when my husband asked why my story did not match Nina's, I did not hear concern. I heard the start of a cage being built. I told him he was making a coffee sound like a crime. I told him women were allowed to speak to people after work. I told him I could not live as a project manager's checked item. He rubbed his thumb along the edge of the mug. He said he had not called me a criminal. He said he was asking because something had been off for weeks. That should have softened me. Instead, I stood up and opened the refrigerator, though I had no reason to look inside. There was Greek yogurt, a packet of spinach, and the almond milk he bought because I said dairy made me puffy before presentations. He asked if I had eaten. Wrong question. Kind question, maybe. But wrong. I said I had. I had not. The next morning at work, Tamsin leaned over our shared desk while peeling the foil from a protein bar. She asked how my older builder king had handled the late night. I told her not to call him that, but I smiled. She noticed the smile and kept going. She said marriage made some women smaller. She said I was too bright to become someone who discussed grout samples every evening. She said a little attention from a young man was not a betrayal. It was circulation. Tamsin had been divorced for 9 months. Her ex-husband had moved to Bristol with a Pilates instructor who posted too much about sunrise. Tamsin wore red lipstick on Tuesdays because, she said, Tuesdays needed blood. I loved her for that and distrusted her for it, but not enough. At lunch, Nina sat with us in the courtyard. She was eating soup from Pret with a wooden spoon that kept bending. Tamsin made another joke about my husband being from a different decade. I laughed because silence would have made the joke heavy. Nina did not laugh. She asked if my husband knew I was joking like that. I said Nina was too serious. She lowered her eyes to the soup and stirred it until it went cold. That was the first person to step back. Not far, just 1 foot. Later that week, Clara called my husband while I was in the hallway painting over a scuff mark near the stairs. She did not know he had put her on speaker. She asked if I was angry with him. She said my jokes lately had teeth. My husband looked at me when she said it. Not accusing. Worse. Waiting. I lifted the paint roller and told him the second coat needed doing before the housewarming. 1 wall, 2 coats. No crime. But by then, the paint was already covering more than a scuff. The housewarming was supposed to be small. 12 people, maybe 14 if Jules brought the man he was seeing that month. I had ordered white tulips from the florist near the station, the ones that came wrapped in brown paper with black string. The dining table had finally arrived, but one chair still wobbled, so my husband put a felt pad under the short leg and said nobody would notice. The thing is, I cared that people noticed the right things. The oak floor, the clean lines, the guest bathroom with the brass mirror. I was a woman who had spent years selling other people a life and now needed mine to photograph well. By 6, the house smelled of lemon cleaner, warm bread, and the fig candle Tamsin brought because she said every new home needed a rich smell. The blue ceramic key bowl filled up quickly. Clara dropped in a Volvo key with a leather tag. Nina placed hers on top of it. Matteo threw his in badly, and it clinked against the side. My husband moved through the room like staff at his own celebration. He opened bottles, fixed the speaker when the music cut out, found coasters before rings formed on the side table. He looked proud. I can admit that now. Not loud proud. My husband never wore pride where people could see it. He placed it in actions and expected everyone to understand. Clara hugged me and said the hallway looked beautiful. Matteo said the stair rail no longer tried to kill people. Tamsin kissed both my cheeks and whispered that I looked too young to own such a serious sofa. 2 glasses of wine, 1 room, 1 sentence waiting. I do not know who first said the house was a palace. It might have been Jules. It might have been Matteo. I remember exactly that there were rosemary crisps in a green bowl and one had fallen under the coffee table. I cannot remember who handed me my second glass. Someone said my husband had built me a palace. Someone else said I was lucky. That word landed wrong. Lucky. As if I had been rescued from some smaller life by a steady older man with mortgage approval and a good drill. My husband was standing near the blue key bowl, one hand on the console talking to Nina's partner about underfloor heating. He looked settled, fixed, certain of the room. I lifted my glass. I said he had built me a palace, yes, but the palace came with an older king. People laughed because people laugh quickly when they are deciding what kind of moment they are in. Tamsin laughed first, sharp and pleased. Jules laughed after her. Matteo gave me a look that meant careful, but I pretended not to read family. My husband smiled with his mouth, not his eyes. That should have been enough. A small joke, ugly but survivable. But the laugh had done something to me. It had opened a little window, and through it came air that felt like power. I said maybe the older king went to bed early. More laughter, thinner this time. I said maybe I should have wanted younger men while I still could. I said it with my head tilted, like the woman in Luca's photo, and the room changed. Not all at once. It changed person by person. Clara stopped holding her wine near her mouth. Matteo looked at the floor. Nina's eyes moved from me to my husband, and then to her phone, where her thumb rested too still. Tamsin's laugh ended before the others did. Jules made a small sound that tried to become a joke and failed. My husband did not interrupt. He did not rescue himself or me. He stood beside the key bowl and let the sentence finish living in the room. That silence was the worst witness. I kept smiling because stopping would have admitted that I knew. I was a woman who knew rooms, and that room had gone cold in one corner first, then another. Clara said she needed to check on something in the kitchen. Matteo followed her. Nina stayed where she was, phone low in her hand. I saw the red recording bar later. At the time, I saw only a screen glow and told myself she was bored. Tamsin came near me and asked if I was all right. Not in her usual voice. Not thrilled now. She said I had gone a bit far. I told her not to become provincial on me. She looked down into her drink as if something had settled at the bottom. My husband carried 2 empty plates into the kitchen. He moved slowly, not because he was old, but because he was being careful with himself. I hated that care. It made me feel crude. I went to the guest bathroom and locked the door. The mirror had a gold rim and one small smear in the lower corner from where I had cleaned it too fast. My phone lit up with another tagged photo from Luca, taken earlier that week at the showroom. He had posted a corridor shot, and I was in the background, laughing at someone outside the frame. The woman in the photo looked free. The woman in the mirror looked like she had borrowed that freedom and stained it. The thing is, I could still have gone back out and said I had been stupid. I could have touched my husband's arm. I could have made the room safer for him after making it unsafe. Instead, I reapplied lipstick. 1 tube, 2 turns. no crime. When I opened the bathroom door, Nina was in the hallway. She told me gently that my husband had heard more than a joke. I told her people were too sensitive about age. She said it was not about age. That answer had nowhere to go, so I stepped around her. The party ended early in the way parties end when everyone wants someone else to leave first. Clara said she and Matteo had an early morning. Matteo kissed my forehead and missed my eyes. Jules took too long finding his jacket. Tamsin left her fig candle on the mantel and forgot her scarf on the chair. When the door closed behind the last guest, the house sounded larger. My husband picked up 2 keys from the blue bowl and handed one to me because someone had left it behind. The action was ordinary. His face was not. He asked why I needed witnesses to say something that cruel. Quiet. No raised voice. No performance. I told him I had been joking. He said he knew what a joke sounded like when it was protecting someone, and that had not been it. The thing is, I heard him calling me cruel. Maybe he was. Maybe he had earned the word by then. But all I heard was that he did not want to understand why I had needed the room to see me. I said he had embarrassed himself by taking it seriously. That was the wrong response, not the loudest, just wrong. He nodded once like a man placing a box on the correct shelf. Then he took the trash bag from the kitchen bin, tied it neatly, and walked it outside. Through the front window, I saw him stand by the bins longer than the task required. Inside, the blue key bowl sat full of other people's forgotten trust. By Monday, the house had stopped smelling like the party. The fig candle was still on the mantel, but the bread smell was gone, and the lemon cleaner had turned sour near the bin cupboard. I wiped the kitchen counter before work, then wiped it again because there was one ring from a wine bottle that would not lift. The thing is, practical tasks are useful when people refuse to behave normally. 2 cloths. 1 stain. No crime. I was a woman who could turn mess into presentation if everyone gave me enough time. Nobody gave me time. Clara texted my husband about dinner and did not include me. She had always included me before, even when the message was only about bringing salad. That week she wrote to him alone, and I saw his phone light up on the side table because he had left it there while checking the fuse box. I asked if I was invited. He said Clara thought it would be better if we had space. I told him Clara had always enjoyed acting like his second wife. That was ugly. I knew it when I said it because his hand paused over the fuse box cover. He said Clara had spent years watching him make peace before he was ready. He said she was tired. I heard family politics. I heard them closing around him and making me the outsider. I did not hear the simpler thing, which was that I had hurt someone they loved in front of them. At work, Tamsin was slower with me. She still came to my desk, still asked about campaigns, still said the client from Manchester had the taste of a hotel corridor. But when I mentioned the housewarming, she looked toward the meeting room glass and said the toast had been a lot. A lot. Not funny. Not iconic. Not even brave. I told her people were rewriting it because my husband had decided to act wounded. Tamsin pressed her lips together and said maybe he was wounded. That was another wrong answer. Not betrayal. Not yet. Just a small door closing. That evening, Matteo called while I was folding napkins we had not used from the party. He asked if I was sleeping. I said of course I was sleeping. He said Clara had called him, and he did not like how familiar the story sounded. I told him not to compare me to our father. He did not say he was. He did not need to. My husband slept in the guest room for the first time on Wednesday. He did it without a scene. He carried 1 pillow, 1 charger, and the old grey t-shirt he wore when painting. He told me he needed rest. I said rest from what? He said from being made small in his own house. The guest room still had a boxed lamp on the floor and no curtains. He put his pillow on the bed and smoothed the cover with both hands. That small movement made me want to say something softer, but I had already built too much around being right. I said he was making 1 toast into a trial. He turned then. Not fast. He named the pattern, not the night. He said it was the jokes at dinner, the way I corrected his stories, The coffee kiosk lie, the old king comment, the way I spoke about him as if he were useful but embarrassing. Each item had a place. He did not shout. He put them down between us like receipts. I reached for the only clean truth I had. I told him I had felt unseen. I told him he treated me like a project finished on time, not a woman still living inside the house. I said he did not look at me anymore unless something needed fixing. His face changed. Not much. Enough. He said he did not know how to love loudly. He said he thought coming home, building the house, paying attention to what made my life easier was a kind of looking. It was too plain, too late, too hard to use. So I used my pain like a shield. I said that was convenient for men who did not want to speak. He looked down at his hands. There was white paint under one nail from the hallway trim. He asked if I wanted to repair this or win it in. I said those were not the only choices. He did not answer. The conversation ended badly because neither of us knew which sentence was supposed to save us. Later, in the hallway, he took off his reading glasses and placed them beside the blue key bowl instead of carrying them upstairs. He always carried them upstairs. He kept them on the bedside table with the alarm clock and the paperback books he read 3 pages at a time before sleep. The glasses looked wrong there. Small. Abandoned. One arm folded, one open. I stood in the hallway with my phone in my hand. The house was quiet enough that I could hear the refrigerator click on. The paint line near the stairs was still uneven where I had rushed the second coat. His glasses caught the light from the wall sconce and made a little pale mark on the console. For a few seconds, the story I had been telling myself did not hold. He was not standing over me with rules. He was not trying to make me old beside him. He was leaving a private part of himself downstairs because upstairs was no longer ours. That was the door opening. Behind it was my husband at the party, one hand on the console, letting the room hear what I had done. Behind it was the coffee call I had ignored. Behind it was the first time he told me his age made him feel like a man people had already judged. He had trusted me with that. I had turned it into a party trick. My thumb moved before the thought could finish. I opened the camera, framed the hallway so the glasses were out of sight, and took a photo of the console, the bowl, the clean wall, the warm light. Then I posted it with a caption about new houses needing new energy. That was how I closed the door. 1 photo. 5 words. No crime. Tamsin saw it and sent only a thumbs up. No joke. No flame emoji. No voice note telling me I looked powerful. The next day, Clara did not reply to my message about returning her serving dish. Matteo texted my husband and said his spare room was open if he needed air. Nina asked me, too carefully, whether I remembered exactly what I had said at the housewarming. I told her I remembered enough. She did not say what she had on her phone. She only said, "Okay." That night, my husband moved his charger fully into the guest room. The cord disappeared from my side of the bed first. Small things leave before people do. I stood in the doorway and told him he was being dramatic. He folded his grey t-shirt and placed it in the guest room drawer. Inside the walls, something had split without making a sound. The rooftop bar had fake palm trees in black tubs and heaters that clicked every few minutes, though the night was mild. I went there because Luca was photographing a small design event and because my husband had stopped asking where I was going. The thing is, silence can feel like freedom if you are committed to misunderstanding it. 2 texts unanswered. One dress too bright for the weather. No crime. I was a woman who refused to sit alone in a house where every object had started taking his side. Jules came with me for the first hour. He liked events with wristbands and free drinks because they made him feel connected to people who would not remember him later. He told me I looked dangerous. I told him dangerous was better than domestic. He laughed, but not with his whole face. Luca was near the far railing, taking photos of a concrete fire pit and a woman in a silver jacket. When he saw me, he smiled quickly, then looked over my shoulder as if checking who had followed. That should have told me something. It did tell me something. I chose another translation. He said he did not know I was coming. I said I had seen the event story and thought it looked open. He said it was, technically, but clients were around. Technically. Clients. Words that placed a fence around him. I stood closer than I needed to while he showed me a photo on his camera screen. Nothing happened that could be named cleanly as an affair in a court of ordinary people. No dark corner, no hotel room, just a shoulder near a shoulder, his hand briefly at my back to move me away from a passing waiter, my face turned toward his, as if the whole rooftop had been built to watch. That was enough. I knew my husband would see the location tag. I knew Nina might see it. I knew Clara might hear about it through someone. The knowledge was not hidden from me. It sat there beside the tall gin glass with the cucumber strip. I posted a story with Luca in the background and wrote that some rooms make a woman remember her age in a good way. My thumb hovered for maybe 3 seconds. Then I pressed share. That was the voluntary line. It was not wine. It was not confusion. It was me choosing an audience again. Luca saw the post 10 minutes later. His smile thinned. He asked if I could not tag the venue next time when he was working, because his client list was conservative and people misunderstood things. People misunderstood things. That was how he protected himself while standing inside the misunderstanding. I said he had been happy enough to flirt when nobody important was watching. He said he did not call it flirting. He said I was fun, but he did not want drama. Fun. That word was smaller than I had made him in my head. Jules heard enough to look away. Then he said he needed to find the bathroom and did not come back for 20 minutes. When I got home, the townhouse entry light was on. My husband stood beside the console, not in the living room, not upstairs, but exactly where the blue key bowl sat. His reading glasses were gone from the console. He had taken them somewhere else. I told myself that meant he was calming down. He asked if I wanted to say anything before we stopped pretending. Final and clean. One real statement. Real. Not repeated. I put my clutch on the console and missed the edge. It fell and my lipstick rolled under the radiator. I left it there. I told him he had already decided I was guilty, so why perform the open-minded husband? He said he could accept pain, but not public contempt dressed as freedom. That sentence had the shape of truth, and I hated its shape. I said the one thing he could not push away. I said he made me feel like a project he had already solved, not a woman he still saw. He did not deny it. His hand moved to the back of his neck. He looked at the floor, then at me, and for a second the house held both facts. He had failed me in a real way. I had used that failure to excuse things it did not cover. Then I kept speaking. The thing is, once a true sentence opens the door, a false one can run through it if you let it. I said maybe I needed younger eyes because his had gone tired. I said maybe being with him had started to feel like being placed on a shelf before my time. I said he liked me best when I made the house look good and asked for nothing loud. His face did not harden. That would have been easier. It settled. He told me he would handle things properly. No court words, no threats, no names, just properly. I said properly was his favourite way of making cruelty look tidy. He said nothing. He picked up my clutch from where it had fallen, placed it on the console, and went upstairs to the guest room. That calm should have frightened me more than any shouting. Instead, I became louder in the empty hallway. I called Tamsin. No answer. I sent her a message saying I had done something bold and needed her to tell me I was not mad. Then another saying he was acting like a saint. Then a third saying she knew what it was like to be trapped by a man's disappointment. 3 messages. Grey red mark. Nothing. The absence arrived quietly. It did not accuse me. It just took away the place where my version usually landed. Jules answered after midnight but whispered because he was in bed. He said he loved me, obviously, but maybe I should stop posting for a bit. Obviously did not help. He said my husband was not as easy to make the villain as I seemed to think. I told him everyone was becoming cowardly. He said he had an early meeting. Another door, not slammed, just closed. Downstairs, the house was still. I opened the refrigerator and found the Greek yogurt expired by 2 days. I threw it away, then cleaned the shelf, then cleaned the shelf below it. At 1:10 in the morning, I was wiping a refrigerator drawer while my husband slept in the guest room like a man waiting for a train he had already booked. In the morning, he was logistical. He asked which bills were on my card and which were joint. He asked for the spare key Clara had given us. He asked if I had receipts for the hallway paint because the colour code might be needed later. Later. Needed. Code. I told him he sounded like a building surveyor inspecting a marriage. He said that was not far from the truth. I laughed, but it came out wrong. Nina messaged at noon asking whether we were okay. I wrote that my husband was punishing me for honesty. I almost sent it. Then I deleted husband and wrote Henrik. Then I deleted the whole thing and sent only that things were tense. She replied 4 hours later. She used to reply in 4 minutes. Luca sent one message near 5. He asked me again not to tag him in anything personal. He said he respected me, but he needed clean lines around his work. Clean lines. That was what I sold for a living. By evening, my husband had moved a small stack of folders from the study to the guest room. I asked what they were. He said records. I asked records of what? He said household things. The thing is, if someone says household things in a quiet voice, you can still choose to believe they mean appliance manuals. I chose that. He placed the folders beside his reading glasses on the guest room desk and closed the door without locking it. That was the part I missed. He did not need to lock it. He was not hiding from me anymore. The bank office smelled of printer heat and mint tea. Mrs. Patel had the townhouse loan file open between us, with coloured tabs along the side and my name printed beside my husband's on the first page. I wore my cream blazer, the one I used for difficult client meetings, and kept smoothing the cuff over my wristwatch. The thing is, a bank office should have been neutral ground. 2 chairs, 1 folder, no theatre. I was a woman who still believed clean clothes and clear sentences could hold a room. My husband was already there. He had shaved. His reading glasses were in his shirt pocket. Mrs. Patel asked if we were ready to discuss the renovation account instructions. Before I answered, a man came to the glass door and said my full name. He held a large envelope and a clipboard. I signed because people sign when a clipboard is placed in front of them. My hand made the P too large. The pen skipped on the carbon paper. Inside the envelope was a petition for dissolution of marriage with application for temporary exclusive use of the marital home and temporary financial restraining orders. The next date was listed clearly. Temporary Orders Hearing, June 18, 2026, County Family Court. I read the title twice and pressed my thumb along the envelope seam until it bent. Mrs. Patel closed the loan folder halfway. Not fast, not dramatic, just enough to show the meeting had become something else. The petition referenced the housewarming video, the rooftop location story, and my public captions about needing new energy and being controlled. Nina's saved recording was named. The tagged photo trail was named. No new miracle. No secret spy. Just the public things I had made public. I said the toast had been a joke and the posts had been emotional. Mrs. Patel folded her hands and said the bank could not proceed with disputed marital property instructions while temporary orders were pending. My husband stood first. The conflict partner in the room left before anyone else. He thanked Mrs. Patel, placed his copy of the file into a brown document sleeve, and walked out without looking back for permission. Luca's message arrived before I reached the car park. He had removed the tagged photos, deleted the shared event story, and wrote that he could not be involved in domestic matters. I moved into a serviced apartment near my office, where the wardrobe door scraped the carpet. The joint renovation account was restricted until the June 18th hearing. Clara blocked me, Matteo stopped explaining me to people, and Nina gave my husband the recording. Luca cleaned every visible connection and treated my name like a risk. My employer removed me from the public launch because the posts had reached a client. The thing is, I thought being wanted by younger men would prove I was still alive. 2 posts, 1 toast, 1 tagged photo, and the proof did not belong to me anymore. I was a woman who knew how to shape a room, but I lost the only room where someone had known me without performance. The blue ceramic key bowl stayed on the console, empty on one side. I got the younger eyes and lost the home that had seen me whole.